it's food.
Okay, perfect. All right, we're back. But not many people would be. You were excited to come and do the show once you learned that JP was coming on. You said, "Hey, when am I coming on to do the podcast?" And I really appreciated that. It was good to hear.
It's actually, I found it very interesting and amazing. What are you guys doing? It's a way, I think, also the listening podcast, a way to learn about people more around you. So it's really exciting, and you guys doing this so professionally. I usually listen it, not like watching as the like a full experience with the video, but I guess I need to start to do this. But usually I do this in the car, and every story is amazing. Like your friends and what, like it just, even people I don't know, it's still Leon. I never seen Leon, but it's so interesting, his story, the value, the things that he interested about. It's pretty much like really amazing.
No, it comes down to two things, I reckon. I've got such a powerful and amazing network around me who have amazing stories to tell. But I also think, the whole concept of this show is everyday people. And everyday people have a story to tell, something interesting that you can learn from, and always things that you can take away from it too. But it's pretty crazy to think about, like, if we weren't here right now, we'd all probably be at G Fitness in the sauna training, right? And, Mila, you might be one of the fittest people in all of freshwater. Your cardio regime is insane. Where did you develop the motivation to do that, and how did that develop in you?
I think it's just a muscle memory, to be honest, from my childhood, because like it's very interesting. My parents, I like growing up in USSR, my parents were thinking like, and myself, I wanted to learn music, play piano, and my mom tried to do auditions for me, but the system where I grew up, it was all government run, and to be successful admitted to the program, you need to be like really gifted in this. So as a child, I didn't have much luck with any of my ambition to be a musician or someone else, or to be a professional figure skating or do rhythmic gymnastics. So I've been told that I'm not fit enough and don't waste our time and your time. So it was always cries, and like my parents, thanks for them, they tried to like find right hobby for me, where I will be like interested. So I did photography, and I think when I was at year 4-3, the basketball coach noticed me and said, "I need you in my team." I was like, I'm short. My parents are short, but I think that's how I went to sports. And my life always been around like a lot of training twice per day, like basketball, and a lot of different activities.
Twice a day is a pretty insane regimen, though. Not many people would be able to keep that up.
That's how in USSR, I think they train us.
Wow.
So,
Well, let's talk about that then. Let's dive straight into it. So, for context, where did you grow up, and when did you grow up? Well, it's very important, right? We're talking
I think
USSR.
I always try to kind of walk around the subject when everyone asking how old are you. not anyone directly asked me about this, but I think I
you can back solve it if you know timeline.
Yeah, people are smart, so mathematics, and it's like I was born in USSR. The country was still USSR, so I'm 33 now, so
Okay.
1982 until I was 10, we lived in a part of the USSR that now is Uzbekistan.
Okay.
So Tashkent is the capital. When USSR collapsed, it's became like really hard for us as a children. I have a sister. She's 3 years younger than me. And my parents started to think what to do with all of this. So basically, people who Uzbek nationality, they start to like, you look like Russian, you're Russian, it's not your country. So it was quite depressing for us. And my dad had opportunity to move to Russia. Um, my dad all his life worked for space agency, Russian
Wow.
space agency, and so he went there like for 6 months to set up everything for us while we were in Tashkent with my mom.
Hmm.
And then he came back and he said, "We can't do this." I just said, "I'm not taking this opportunity. We're staying here." And something happened like when I needed to protect my sister, and I just said that you're doing it for us. You can't say that we're staying here. It's not a good place for us to live here. And the reason why he told we can't go this, we can't move, because he has a twin brother,
Hmm.
and he can't lose this connection. So, and I think then I grow up and gave him choice. You need to choose us or your brother. So
Mm.
we all moved, and it
Wow.
was good. So we moved to Space Town.
Okay.
It's just in very kind of north area of Russia, permanent frost,
Hmm.
9 months of the snow,
Wow.
black days, like it's really like white days of the summer, white and really like polar nights
Mm.
during the winter time.
Yes.
But it still was very good place to live for, like, it's 40,000 population.
Okay.
You can't get to this town without special stamp in your passport.
Mm.
So it's all protected. It's, yeah, Ross Space Cosmos, like space agency.
Hmm.
And my dad was working for, he was doing the geo, so basically launching the satellites and doing the shoots of the Earth surface
Hmm.
before digital maps came.
Wow.
So
The
yeah,
Google Earth before Google Earth, really.
yes. So actually, and he was like, when I moved to Australia, he was showing me, it's like the Kosciuszko area national park.
Wow.
That's they were doing as well, like mapping. And then I think my mom in a couple of years joined the program as well. She was doing the like communication for the more for military, I
Hmm.
would say.
Hmm.
So yeah, I was growing up in an environment that everything for kids, very safe place after the Uzbekistan situation, and a lot around the kind of STEM education and sport. But this place is always like, it's not your final destination or family's final destination. You do the like 10 years program and then everyone moves.
Mm.
So you have a choice what city you want to move in Russia. And my parents make decision to move to Moscow because I graduated school and went to uni in Moscow.
Hmm.
So now they live in Moscow. Everyone. I did engineering at uni, 6 years full time, master of laser technique and technology.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess I was into engineering from being 10 years old when I first time play like Atari, Denzi.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, computer science, how it's all built. And my uncle said like, oh, there is a uni in Moscow, very famous, 195 years old. It started as the kanate for producing military stuff
Wow.
during the one of the wars.
Mm. Mm.
So yeah, and I did 6 years uni. Um, the environment was like 20 people in cohort, three girls, all the other boys.
Classic engineering
Yeah,
cohort, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I don't regret. Like I when I graduated, I never done it. Like I understood that I couldn't do it for my life,
Hmm.
but the foundation, what it's give me, like I think it's just the approach how like everything could be solved You need to find the right framework,
Hmm.
and that's it.
There's a different level of problem solving technique involved in subjects like engineering, physics, mathematics that you can apply to a bunch of different things. Like that problem solving skill set can translate into different areas of your life and uplift those too. And I think that those courses at uni, the people who do those courses really shine because of that. They're not, just because they did an engineering degree doesn't mean they're necessarily the best engineers, but they're able to be the best problem solvers and put that into practice in the business world or whatever, sector they want to apply it to, right? You talked about the USSR and growing up in the USSR, and it collapsed in 1991 when you were about 10 years old. Do you remember what it was like before and after the collapse? Was there, drastic changes overnight?
It's actually was like, yeah, pretty much the policy and everything were changed um overnight, over months.
Wow.
So basically, yeah, I think like in one day, parents, we kind of choosing what car to buy in with our saving, and next day pretty much you can't buy anything for the this saving. It's
Mm.
just, yeah, everything collapsed, and it was a system when you had a tickets given by, I don't know, consoles, and you go with these tickets to the grocery stores and you stay on a queue like for 6 hours to have the, yeah, grocery baskets to
Yeah.
kind of survive.
No, they talk about the bread lines, right? And you'd have the ticket and you'd line up
Yeah.
for hours.
Yeah, and then yeah, so basically all people in one queue, and you can see. So Uzbekistan is like it's kind of Central Asia area. So
Hmm.
the the difference in the identity of people, how they look like. So you can pretty much say that you look not like local person.
Hmm.
When like my relative lived in Ukraine, in Russia, even at that time. So the reason why my grandparents choose Uzbekistan, because it was a really nice climate. So it's
Hmm.
kind of similar to, I would say, Melbourne. For me, when I moved to Australia, Melbourne was like, yeah, something similar. Like you don't have really proper winter,
Okay.
never snowing almost, and very very hot summer.
Mm.
Like you have like almost like Dubai sometimes, 45 degrees in the
Yes.
summer, like 40 days of this.
Mm.
And it's had like nice mountains area around. And I guess like USSR always was, there is some program happening like we need to build infrastructure, particularly in this area. So the some government stimulation to move people in this area. So
Mm.
that's what I knew about my family, why they were there. When I was born, I didn't have any grandparents already, unfortunately. So I never had like someone to give me full story what's happened.
Mm.
Yeah. So, but when I moved to Russia, grew up there, and like on some particular age, working for the same company where I work now, I had opportunity to look after the region Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and the opportunity were kind of suggested that I need to move back to Tashkent and live there. I was like, no way, I will do this. I had like really bad children memories, and I didn't want to do this, and I like really could not get even back there for a very long time.
Mm.
But I managed to look after region from based in Moscow, and kind of now I probably can travel there, but it's still like I would not like to live there.
I understand. I understand. At the time when the USSR collapsed, was the sentiment in Uzbekistan that they were loyal to the Soviet Union, or did they
There,
want to become an independent state themselves?
it was like 15 different countries. So
Okay.
I would say USSR collapsed under influence of US. Uzbekistan was very, I think the president who actually was a president for more than 20 something years until most recently, was very pro-American person, very close to US. Same pattern happened with Georgian conflict later, Ukraine. We can see it's all the same,
Mm-hmm.
my opinion, but it is, if you look where Zelensky were preparing and his background, he's actually a professional actor. Um, if you compare, like, Putin did KGB, so he has probably more skill set to run the country. But anyway, I think if we're talking about politics,
Mm-hmm.
even like in Australia, there is a certain skill set that probably, yeah, public speaking, acting is very,
Important,
yeah.
especially if you're Zelensky right now, right? Do you think Zelensky's a puppet for the US military agenda, for, defense contractors back in Washington?
I think, yeah, I think it's just the job, to be honest, and it depends how much you paid for doing this job.
When it comes to the war in Ukraine, how does someone that, grew up in the USSR, how do you necessarily see it from your perspective? How does your family see it?
Um, it's my family is when all of these conflicts started. It was quite, you think it's okay. Moscow is far away from the border, and like, but what's happening is you hear that not directly like someone from people died, but friend of friend went to the war action, and a lot of stuff happening, like leg amputation, something else. So you hear this every time, and then I feel a little bit kind of when I start to think, oh, I'm going to Russia now,
Mm-hmm.
and like I can see in Instagram some of my friends, like, there are sometimes like the sky is open for just to catch plane from one Russian city to another.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's close, like the drones and something else. Yeah, so it's reality, new norm of life that people live at the moment. When it's all started, it was like very uncertain situation. You don't know, like my brother-in-law, he works for he's CTO of the company. So working in IT, you kind of don't need to go to army.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if you are a man, it's could be knocked to the door and you don't have time. You just being taken and sent to the army. It's very sad. Um, but for like my friends and family, um they're okay. Like they're not being involved in this all. When the conflict started, a lot of my friends decided to leave Russia,
Mm-hmm.
especially friends with the kids, because they like they moved to Europe. They moved to, we can see a lot of Russia now in Thailand, in Bali. So people who had a choice, they moved. Some of my friends, like they work in like the designers, and like they moved with the families in I think Belgrade.
Oh, yep.
But now, like maybe last year, they all start to come back to Moscow and live
Wow.
in Moscow again. Yeah.
No, I'm half Serbian, so I know Belgrade well. My,
Yeah. So
my grandparents are from there.
awesome.
So, yeah.
Very interesting. Um. Yeah. So I really I have not been there for 5 years. So basically, um, I think it's all started like after last time was there, and then come back, and then in 6 months it's all started, and I was hoping, and everyone was hoping, like it will not repeat as a Second World War. for the like 5 years, but it's still
We're
happening.
now 3 years into the conflict. Seems like
Yeah,
peace is further away than it's ever been. There were peace talks in Istanbul between Zelensky and Putin just the other day, and Putin's demands remain the same, that Ukraine does not join NATO, and that there is Russian territory expansion. About 20% is what he's kind of after, and Ukraine have denied they do not want either of those. They've denied that proposal from Putin, and so the war rages on. And it doesn't seem like Ukraine is going to give in there, and it doesn't seem like Russia is going to give in on their side either. So it's a very terrible conflict, and 250,000 Russians are dead, 100,000 Ukrainians are already dead too. It's terrible to see, and this war, and from the American president himself, he said that he was going to end this war, and we haven't seen it end, and we've only seen it really get worse under his presidency. So it kind of, hope seems to be running out for this thing, and you have to wonder how long does it drag on for.
it's I think it's depends how long is um European country and US will be supporting Ukraine in terms of the supply and the military stuff.
Well, this is what's so crazy. In March, Trump cut off all funding to Ukraine for about 3 weeks, and then essentially was pressured into giving it all back. And now they're pumping more money in there than they ever have. Like over $400 billion US has already gone to Ukraine in support of this war. And from a egalitarian perspective, when you look at the simple story, right? If the story was simple, Russia invades Ukraine, we have to defend Ukraine, right? Because this is unfair what Putin's doing, and we need to, arm these people and protect them, provide aid, right? But the story is a lot muddier than that. It's more complex, and this money is essentially being trafficked through Ukraine. It's not even going to military operations, right? And it's an absolute tragedy to see, and it really is just a huge money laundering operation.
It's yeah, it's they uh, the any presidency that been running for such a long time, like Putin in power, um, like myself and a lot of my friends were supporting Navalny. We wanted things change,
Mm-hmm.
but looking at what's happened to Navalny,
Mm.
um, like we seriously like my parents would tell me be careful with social media, Facebook, etc. Don't post particular information during COVID as well.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend, she's like activist. She's been like in I don't know police station for so many times
Mm-hmm.
for running protests, not running, participating in protests. So it's it's very kind of tough environment to be there. There is no freedom of speech, freedom of action. Um, yeah, so
It's terrible. It really is a tragedy. And I guess going back to the Soviet Union, one thing that you talked about too was like the propaganda arm that they had as well, right? And you, before we started this pod, you actually gave me a gift, which is awesome. I pull it up here now.
yes,
And it's a collection of posters from the Soviet Union.
it's the propaganda of a lot of different stuff.
So hold on, I'll pull up a few of these now. These are awesome. Because you're going to have to translate too.
This is
So
a
what's this one say?
that's a propaganda of the cigarettes
Oh, okay.
smoking
Promoting it.
Well, yeah, and who's promoting the first person in space? I think like Yuri
Aha.
Gagarin or something. That's a stake, I guess. What does it say? Um, oh, I can't read it.
No, 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 no,
No,
stress.
no,
Or
no, no.
you,
It's okay. It's yeah. It's
wow, so these are all
the
just
meat, the beef in the packages. Like it's
so these are all just advertisements from
yeah,
back in the day.
yeah,
old time USSR.
yeah. That's how the ads were like in a like bus station and metro.
These are
Somewhere.
absolutely amazing, guys. They're
Yeah,
just
some
little
of them
pieces of
is
history.
some of them is pretty cool. I think some of them is like yeah, that's probably some Olympic games or sport. Yeah.
That's absolutely awesome. When it came to, do you remember much of the propaganda that was going on in the USSR? Like I know you were very, very young,
Hmm.
but do you remember that shift between USSR and being an independent state?
I think when it was USSR, it was happy place to live, to be honest. So, we had a very nice. life. It's all, run by government. Everyone is equal. That's not like a big class difference. There's no kind of wealthy people. So it's the housing is the mostly government
Hmm.
housing. So um, there's free childcare, free schools, free universities. I did university. Like it's free. You can do free universities in Russia right now. Still, I think.
Hmm.
So it was a good place to live, USSR, until all of this becoming as independent 15 countries,
Yes.
and some of them were like really struggling, saying like Ukraine, Belarus. So they didn't have a lot of resources.
Mm.
So what USSR was powerful country because of the sports. USSR was a very powerful team. Then you split it on 15 different teams. So and then you have only like some of the countries have good performance in particular sports. Uh, but the general score is already not that great.
Mm.
So yeah, I think the sport is one example, but resources it's different. Like and when it was USSR, so the Uzbekistan was famous for cotton production.
Okay.
Ukraine was yeah agriculture, I guess.
Hmm.
Then we had the three country that now part of the European Union: Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia.
Hmm.
So they were like a dairy production country. So every of these country had their own resources, skill set. So Russia, I think, the biggest territory, the most of resources. What it lost, the access to the ports,
Hmm.
the Black Sea.
Of course.
So this was the major kind of part of not just Black Sea, Baltic Sea as well. So
Mm.
in Baltic Sea, so it's Baltic countries, three countries: Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania.
Hmm.
But there is a appendix, we call it, like really small territory called Kaliningrad,
Hmm.
which is where it was Königsberg before.
Okay.
So it has a lot of like German history as well. Monument of Kant University. Like it's really nice place. So the reason why all of this, like it's just a safe access to the ports,
Mm.
basically. Crimea as well. So, but the thing is, when Crimea become, for example, Ukraine,
Yes.
people who lives like local people in Crimea, they did not like to be part of the Ukraine. They were uh, more wealthy when it was USSR, so they actually wanted to become part of Russia.
Mm. Which is a big reason why this war is so messy, because when
Yeah,
Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, right, people saw that as a threatening action by Putin. But as you mentioned, a lot of people in Crimea were happier under the USSR and wanted to be part of Russia rather than Ukraine,
yeah,
right? So and that has to do with kind of like that media spin, right? The media can leave that out and make it look like Putin's doing such a terrible thing. And I'm not saying he hasn't done terrible things. Invading another
so
country is
was,
obviously not good,
yeah,
but it's
exactly.
that spin, right? And propaganda is such a jarring term, right? And when someone says propaganda, you go, that doesn't happen in today's society.
Mm.
But if you really think about it, it sort of does. Like, if you talk about the Iraq war, weapons of mass destruction, that was a huge lie. COVID was a huge lie. The 2008 financial crisis, when they told us that like these bailouts of banks is for the betterment of the system, but it turns out it was just a giant corporate rescue, right, of the people that did us wrong in the first place and got us into that mess, right? So, and there are, and then that's, you kind of walk that line. Is that just media spin? Is that just attention going to certain places, or is that a form of propaganda in today's society, right?
Yeah,
It's difficult to know.
you're right. Like when I just moved to Australia, and so basically, I was doing English as a second language courses, and we're being told like ABC is the the channel to watch and learn English. And a first impression, any channel, like doesn't matter, channel 9 or anything, um, you can see that it's really pro-American kind of point of view. So when I live in Moscow, did the uni and work for some cafe chain. So based kind of in the office of the Big Four, Ernst and Young.
Hmm.
Um, we run like 24 hours Euronews. So I kind of, for me, Euronews was always more source of the kind of independent
Okay.
point of view.
Yes.
So, but what I've seen in Australia, very, very much pro-American. Not like maybe it's just different. That's all. So
Mm.
it's yeah,
An
it's
entirely different perspective,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So I would never put any like Russian news, and we kind of because we were based on the Ernst and Young building, and it's a lot of like expat working there. So
Hmm.
Euronews were only allowed. Um, you can put Bloomberg as well,
Yeah.
Bloomberg TV. Um, but pretty much this is what was the true resource of information. So now, like even when I talked to my mom, and she's like, I went to. We still have relative in Ukraine, and mom said like when last time I went there to see them, and when you turn the TV, it's propaganda in on Russian TV. It's propaganda of like it's a Putin point of view. It's just very depressing as well. So I kind of um not into TV at all because and if I want to look at the news from point of view, kind of what's happening in Russia, not just through lens of the ABC or anything else. So there is a website Medusa.io, and it's like in run in English and in Russian, and it's actually banned in Russia because this is uh, independent for generation of the people um who not like understand who doesn't support Putin
Mm.
um idea.
I understand. I understand. Who are kind of, yeah, like not old timers who are necessarily captured by that
Yeah.
ideology, but are more free. I understand. I think it comes down to perspectives in media too, and we were talking about this, and I think that's why independent journalism is the future. You know, because whether it's the ABC, the BBC, people have lost trust in state-owned media, right? Because it's going to push the state's agendas. You know, and then people in Australia, they don't even realize that the news is very biased towards the US, right? But someone, an outsider looking in, is like, "What is this? Like,
Mm.
this is a completely different perspective." And I noticed that too. Like when my Serbian grandma, she sends me like a bunch of like Serbian headlines and things, and I read them. I'm like, this is an entirely different perspective on the like same situation that I
Yeah.
was watching this morning, right? And it's just the Western news versus the Eastern news, right? Because Serbia, it's an Orthodox Christian country, and so is Russia. So Putin and Serbia, they get along really well. So Serbians always quite pro-Russian sort
Mm.
of stuff. So when you see, even the recent attacks that have happened in Ukraine and Russia in the last week or so, right, seeing both sides of the story and understanding that, oh, it's not just this US Western view that we see in Australia here. There's actually a complete other side to the story that makes up 50% of the puzzle.
Yeah. It's very yeah. And at the same time, like the war is still going. I have a friend and colleagues who lives in Ukraine. They're on Instagram, and there is a mass media concerts, and like they posting like having fun
Hmm.
time there. So I don't know. It all seems to be very. Um, so people still feel like if I'm not in this action zone at the
Hmm.
moment, the life still going on. Like you can't stop, you can run from this way. You just adapt to
Wow.
yeah. unfortunately.
I guess so. I guess so. I guess, like, speaking of adapting and speaking of like the differences between the Soviet Union and the West today, I feel like we talked about propaganda. We talked about, like the control of a society. Do you think the USSR and, Western society now have more in common than they do apart? Like, especially recently with, a lot, I feel like people are more concerned about government control and privacy more than ever, right? And that was one of the big fears of communism and
Yeah.
the Soviet Union, right? Do you think that's true? Do you
There
think that's
was
real?
no privacy, I would say. I think so. People concerned about this now, but if we look at the China, there was same no privacy in terms of um, people being like surveillance 24 hours. I think the same in Russia still. The most recent I heard from my ex uni friends that maybe WhatsApp is will stop to work now.
Okay.
Like I don't know. It's due to all the security leaks and the access of what's the platform like Facebook, WhatsApp providing to the state government or not state government to any other parties involved.
Mm,
Yeah, so don't think privacy in Russia exists anymore. VPN does not help on this.
mm-hmm.
It's just creating additional issues with in terms of if you I don't know running banking transactions for business, the VPN is additional layer of the threat.
Mm, mm.
So it's depends what do you like privacy of the data, privacy of I don't know what type of privacy in making I don't know our own choices.
Well, I think, like, if you think about the Soviet Union, well, if I put myself in the Soviet
Yeah.
Union, right, you'd be scared that the state's always watching, right? That, like, the Soviets are always watching, and that, you have no privacy over your own home and your community, right? But now I feel like the fear is kind of like big tech's watching. Everything's controlled by a few of those
Yeah,
big tech
big
companies, Amazon, Alphabet, etc. Right?
yeah, big
Meta.
techs. I think they play main role because they are the tools to, but they are not the one who actually um, doing like they're not the evil. I think they are just being put in situation where um, you need to provide the data, access to data, or um, y- you will stop being a very successful tech company, I would say.
Mm.
So
I don't think they're necessarily inherently evil either, those tech companies. I think some of those big tech CEOs, though, their ambitions are very separate to the ambitions of the regular everyday people, of average people, right? Like, if you think about like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, like wanting to go to Mars, wanting to put like chips in people's brains, like, people, the cost of living crisis is what people are really focused on, right? Whereas, like, the big tech people, they don't necessarily seem to have our interests at heart. So that's where I feel like, there can be that divide there, and I also feel like it's quite strange seeing so many of these people who were Democratic for so long suddenly flip and become Republicans as soon as Trump gets elected, so they can win over those contracts and win over those big money deals, right? And it just goes to show that they're whatever they need to be. They're whatever they need to be to, as you said, keep the company going and keep it profitable, which is the system we've kind of created, right?
yes, keep it profitable, keep the share price going up, and make more money.
What do you for someone, very few people have been able to live in a communist system and a
Yeah.
capitalist system, right? And I think it's so tough to figure out where that line is between things that should be state controlled and things that need to happen in a free market in the private sector. What are your thoughts on that? Is there a perfect utopia that exists?
Um, I don't think it exists. Like if what's it? Where is the like if we look at like definitely not in Russia or any ex-USSR country. It's very wealthy class
Mm-hmm.
people, oligarchy run the business. Um, some people in region struggling and have no money. Then plus there is um, problem with alcohol, kind of. So there is a lot of diversity in the class. In Australia, I can see sometimes it's happening as well. So, but in the in the that type of countries, you are it's all in your hands. You
Mm-hmm.
can turn around, like you can start from nothing and be entrepreneur. And if you have this idea, you can pinch it to capture ventures, and you can make um, big money. And
Mm.
then you can do whatever you want. You can donate this money. You can help other people. You can run some nice not-profit organizations,
Mm-hmm.
but you can run something non-profit but a bit dodgy as well. So it's all depends from like it's what's your personal value and vision. And yeah, some country give you opportunity to do the right choices, or yeah, to express yourself.
Mm. No, you definitely need freedom in a society. Otherwise, it's going to collapse because there'll eventually become coups where people rise
Mm.
up and overthrow the government, and there'll be turmoil, etc. So anything of that degree is not good. Hold on, Carl's pulling up something for us now. U.S. agencies allegedly approached a Telegram engineer. What's this doing? I know that Telegram. Oh, this is the Telegram CEO Pavel Durov. I know this
Yeah.
story. He was arrested in France because he wouldn't allow, like essentially like the CIA and the American deep state to spy on Telegram servers. That's a story for another day though. That's some different conspiracy type stuff. It's not really that conspiratorial. Someone like you, right? Someone who was raised in the East, right? Do you use Western social media platforms? Do you know what Telegram and
Yeah,
things
yeah,
are?
I have Telegram.
Okay.
Kind of there's so many different platforms like Telegram, WhatsApp. So a lot of people still use WhatsApp. Some people think, okay, let's move to Telegram. It's the headquarter, I think now actually based in Dubai because of the data sovereignty as
Mm-hmm.
well. I think last week my friends, like my uni friends, because we're catching up 20 years from uni
Wow.
graduation. Yeah, so they will start to discuss in WhatsApp group that there is something new came up, the new platform that we need all to move from Telegram and WhatsApp soon.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't connect. Like they start to message always when it's like not time here. So in the morning, I go to work and I just like, okay, hold on, I will send the link and then, but there is still some, I think it's like not in the trial mode, but it's still some vulnerability
Mm.
in the platform. That's why it's, I don't know. It's
Well, these platforms they hold a responsibility that we didn't understand that we were giving them when we first adopted these iPhones. Like, the difference between censoring people online versus like genuine freedom of speech platforms, right, is a huge difference. And I guess like that censorship existed in the Soviet Union, and then to some extent it exists now. It definitely exists in parts of the West,
yeah.
especially places like England where they're arresting people for things that they say online, right? And that's absolutely ridiculous in a country where, in a Western country where, freedom and being and the right to express yourself should be celebrated, right? People are being thrown in jail, not for things that are illegal, but just for expressing their personal opinions, right? Which is, a tricky
Yeah.
situation to be in.
In Russia, it's always been the case,
Mm.
and I think even if we look at the history, very there was a couple of people killed who were like independent for being independent journalist.
Mm.
So yeah, and then some politics were killed as well. So it's still um, kind of normal thing. That's supposed not to be normal, but
Mm.
yeah, it's
And I think, that has to be the main criticism of Putin, like his totalitarian way of leading. The fact that, if there's a political candidate rising up, he's going to execute them, essentially get them assassinated so that he stays in power. And if that you criticize him and his leadership, he's gonna exercise his right to seek consequences on you and potentially your family too. And I think that's what people are really scared of when it comes to being in the West, and like, these tech applications becoming so prevalent in today's society and so impossible to avoid. And we always hear about, our data's being siphoned off. It's essentially being sold off to other companies so they can advertise to us better, and that there's a digital profile of you going on in the background. I know one of the things that you sent me in the little text message in terms of like what we were going to talk about today, one of the things was data centers. And so for the people, and this has to do with exactly what we're talking about, right? For people at home, what is a data center?
Yeah, so we all love our technology, a lot of different um, databases, and so data centers is just the kind of the place where you store the data. The all data, we think we know it's live in a cloud, but clouds needs to have a physical house and to be stored there. So there is a couple of different types. So it could be on premises or colocation facilities. So colocation is a big um, gigawatt, like it's so with a small on premises data rooms, it could be like 6-7 racks for servers, network equipment, couple of backup UPSs just in case if for the critical data, and some cooling units. So and of course the security, physical and kind of monitoring of data as well. So you up to like rack level, you give access to this particular rack to only people with, like, you can scan your HID card or like through the phone. So and you also have the record of who and what time access this data. So that's how it works in small environment. It's also works the same in like colocation, or not just colocation. So some enterprise accounts, they have their own data centers, but everyone moving to colocation because of the standards. It's just you outsource your trouble to someone else
Yes.
who has different level of like standardization on this and security environment. So if you look at the, I think it was very like um, easy to like see some of the famous data centers in Europe. Remember the banks that with the most like biggest gold places. So it was like a lot of different securities, and you will never able to rob these places. So data centers now have the highest level security than the banks has
Wow.
historically, because banks is actually does not have currency now. It's
No,
all
it's all digital, right?
digital. So
Yeah.
all of this digital currency, luckily for me in my industry,
Mm-hmm.
needs to be stored somewhere. And yeah, we keep pumping data centers, investing money in this, building new AI factory.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, we need to plug it in somewhere. They're very thirsty. Um, yeah, and that comes to the energy dilemma: how to build a resilient data center, how to build them in sustainable way.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at the like big data centers hub in Sydney, it's where my office, like Macquarie Park, famous area for data centers. There is like Amazon, Marktel, NextDC,
Mm-hmm.
yours one as well, the Westpac data center. Um, yeah, so there is a couple of them. It's all depend. There's Western Sydney area of like with focus. So basically, they're all concentrated based on their um, plug-in capability.
Okay.
So transmission, where it's run, and they also require a lot of the they're regulated, of
Mm-hmm.
course.
Mm-hmm.
and it's all back to the government, Minister of Energy decision. What are we doing? How are we solving the problem? Do we want to be the innovators, the tech hub of the APAC region?
Mm-hmm.
Australia should be like we are the innovator. But we need investment in this. So currently, like Singapore, probably claiming themselves as the APAC hub for all tech innovation,
Okay.
but we should turn it to APAC because we have the most like startup culture. If we're talking about like Wi-Fi,
Mm-hmm.
who invented Wi-Fi? Like it's us. It's Australia.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Most people don't know that as well. You know, Wi-Fi was an Australian invention.
yeah, so we have this invention mindset here, and the culture to grow, experiment, um, but we need support of the government on this. So
For sure. We need them to have courage in, selecting the right way forward when it comes to the energy crisis that is soon going to be upon us, right? Because as you said, these data centers, they're thirsty. They need a lot of energy, right? What do you think is the future for Australia when it comes to energy? Is it classical renewables like solar panels, wind farms? Is it, the old, the stuff that we've always been using, fossil fuels? What are your thoughts?
yeah, I have something for you.
Okay.
Not my own. Even like I was in a conference all day yesterday. It's run by Adapt event now. It's connected data in cloud world. So Data Center Dynamics is the worldwide organization, and it was the keynote presentation of the guy I never met before, but he's apparently is the granddad or like the of whole telecommunication and data center um, idea here in Australia. So his name is Bevan Slattery, and he's the founder of the NextDC, Superloop, and like really Google him, maybe LinkedIn him. So
Okay. So we can
yeah,
see what he's up to.
yeah. So what he said, the summary of it was a round table.
Okay.
So the summary outcomes were build nuclear now, phase out coal, keep gas for terms only. Renewable, yes, but the problem with renewable that the product life cycle is only 15 years. So there was like you need to with the renewable, you need to think about how you circular economy back,
Mm-hmm.
how you will recycle it,
Of
and
course.
yeah, because now it's a bit problem with like if we're talking about the wind farm that located like offshore somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot of parts going to the ocean and like no one talking about this.
Mm. And those
The
wind turbines are really hard to recycle as well.
yeah.
And they fall apart quick. A lot of those have like an average lifespan of almost 5 years. So here he is, Ben Slatery. And I think, what he's saying is very, very correct. We have to go nuclear now. I completely agree. I think there's a new form of nuclear energy that's got a lot of buzz recently called thorium. I don't know if
Yeah.
you're familiar with
Yeah.
thorium, but I'm a huge thorium advocate. I think that's the direction for Australia long term.
Yeah, he mentioned this as well. So about the new type of nuclear, the new wave of processing uranium, and we
Yes.
discussed the thorium before. Um, totally agree. And the other point he made, um, nuclear submarines. We're signing the deals. We're doing all of this. Um, nuclear reactor based in somewhere, like 400 kilometers away, in build and very safe, like space, and it's no different.
And,
The risk from nuclear power plant is less than nuclear submarines that we already purchase and deploying for the defense.
mm,
So that was his point as well.
No, I completely agree. And a lot of people hear nuclear and think Chernobyl, Fukushima, these large disasters. But the technology of today is nothing like that of 50 years ago, right? When these disasters occurred, right? So it's, and as you said, we've got a lot of land in Australia. It would be silly not to capitalize on this nuclear opportunity, especially these thorium reactors, right? Australia has more thorium than anyone else in the world, any country. We've got pound more thorium than anyone else. It's an amazing opportunity.
It's insane how we don't like with it's yeah we it was with uranium exactly the same situation. We
Mm.
export a lot
We
of
export
uranium.
it all, right?
Yeah, but we don't use it in our own needs. Yeah, so that's a future
Hmm.
for data centers because the only way to support and the the expected growth. It's like we're not near to reach what needed for all of our digital life support. We need more. The more AI factory to build. It's growing ballistically in US. We
Mm.
are catching up. Um, yeah, it's we need to do something. US has like 50% of the nuclear utilization in comparison with the rest type of energy.
Hmm.
So yeah, we need to think about energy mix what we use and try to not just renewable good, but it's not enough.
It's not enough, and it's not long term enough either. Those solar panels are tough to recycle as well. They fall apart
Yep.
quickly. The sun's not always shining. The wind's not always going. And, these, especially wind turbines, have, some pretty adverse effects. First of all, people don't talk about this enough, in my opinion. They're quite dystopic. Huge landscape, beautiful landscape in Australia, completely ruined by these giant dystopian wind
Mm.
turbines, right? And, those things are a graveyard for birds as well. The birds can't see them, they fly straight into them. So, and we've got a lot of endangered species already as it is in Australia. And we want to try to protect those. And I think,
Mm.
nuclear energy, thorium energy, the only reason it isn't adopted is because it's going to take a lot of political courage. It's kind of like in Australia, no one wants it in their own backyard, but someone's going to have it. We can't just have it out remote. There needs to be a town connected to it. So there's workers and a community and an environment. So there needs to kind of be like a re-education on nuclear energy, how
Mm.
safe it is now, hopefully an adoption of this thorium energy that China and India are really taking hold of now. But I think if we're talking about US control, especially when it comes to uranium, right? We can also talk about the exact same thing in reference to data centers. Amazon just signed a huge deal with the Australian government to expand their data center investment to $20 billion, right? And now we're seeing more data centers pop up in Melbourne, Sydney, not just from Amazon, but from Microsoft, from Alphabet, from Meta, all these giant US tech companies. Do we need Australian companies to take hold of this, or is this something we're going to outsource forever?
We have we have really good story. We have Australian brand that we're really proud called AirTrunk.
Okay.
So the AirTrunk data center. So basically, Microsoft is actually pulling 120 million of business from I think all over the world. So they just decide to pause for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we need all of them because we want our data to store locally. From like again, it's I think it's not just regulated. It's uh, from defense point of view.
Of course.
So we can because even with Apple iCloud everything, it's Apple was I think the data was stored like in Singapore. So the Singapore consider is okay for that we can store our data, but the reality with in AI boom era, we need more of this data on edge closer to where we live.
Mm.
And especially we're not talking about the personal application of this, we talk about the smart OT application or like for hospitals, like imagine there is a lot of successful use cases on cancer diagnostics with utilizing AI capabilities. So all of this data needs to sit closer to hospitals.
Mm.
So basically, that's why all of these data centers needs to be. But the conference yesterday was cloud related, and there is a lot of enterprise accounts. You talk to them, and it's like, yeah, our strategy move everything to the cloud. So the data center managers of the enterprise accounts, they want to make their life easy to outsource it to AWS,
Mm-hmm.
like Azure, Microsoft Clouds, Office 365, etc. But Microsoft, instead of building their own data centers here, they do 40 million, I think, money still investment coming in New Zealand,
Okay.
but not in Australia. So, and in Australia, they just go to different data centers providers. So it's AirTrunk, Equinix, Digital Realty. There are some of them is global kind of brands, and some of them like proudly Australian, which is like AirTrunk, who is actually expanded to Asia as well.
Mm-hmm.
And now they looking into extension to Middle East.
Wow. I think when we talk about data centers, it's inevitable to talk about privacy as well, because as these companies kind of harvest us for our data, things like a social credit score in society become more real of a concept, right? Because there's a digital profile, there's a digital ID, maybe there's a central bank digital currency at some point of view. Everything's online, nothing's hidden. All your photos, it's all stored in the cloud, and they've got access to all of it, etc., etc., etc. Right? Do you think that's an inevitability of this timeline that we're on, this data center AI driven sort of, nuclear energy powered timeline? Or do you think, that we can deviate from this?
I think I think it's all like the whole is data. They don't really have access to this. It's
Mm-hmm.
just more some like random unstructured data, I would say. Like it's um, like same as Apple saying like that it's all crypted, all messaging. So basically, they can. So any government can go to Apple and ask them, but Apple can tell them that no, and they can't do anything about this.
Mm.
Same with Meta, so they can actually say government no will not provide. So it's more like the whole data is very encrypted. Um, this leakage is happening. Like I don't usually very worried about like your password being leaked somewhere, etc. So it doesn't mean like I straight away jump and it's just password using the some kind of not even like the password managers now more doing the actually your face ID is the way to protect anything like instead of passcode. It's called, I think, technology called passcode with the
Yes.
face ID as well. So this is the way to kind of protect every instead of the passwords.
Mm. Do you think like biometric screening is the future going forward? Like it won't necessarily like be passwords and encryption. It'll be more biometric sort of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay.
But it's my personal opinion.
No, of course.
What do you think about what do you think future for?
It's when it comes to like the biometric stuff, especially the technology advancements when it's come to biology as well have been very astounding. Like all the gene editing that's going on with CRISPR right now, they're talking about like merging humans with AI. You've got Elon doing his brain chip sort of stuff. It's there's a lot of advancements very quickly, right? And a lot of it's very good. Elon has focused a lot of his Neuralink project on restoring people's vision, restoring people's nerve endings in their back so they can walk again. But I think these sort of kind of bring us into this inevitable pathway
Yeah.
where technology and humans sort of have to merge, right? And I think it's kind of not if, it's when. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
There's gonna be like biotech things that are consumer based, and it's gonna be as normal as having a phone, right? It really will be. And that might be in 100 years, might be in 50, it might be 250, who knows? But I think it's inevitable. The current pace that
Mm.
we're on, the way that technology is advancing, we're going to get there.
Yeah, we always need to think about the ethical side of any, you know, any technology involved like AI. How ethical is AI? We've seen a lot of cases when, like, especially with um, children or like teenagers and like hearing someone really with Gen AI becoming as your companion in life, kids, teenagers killing themselves, and like it's scary.
Very scary. And issues that we didn't have to deal with 5 years ago, just completely off the agenda. And now, you know, almost because we're still at that early adoption stage, right? Like young people probably talk to ChatGPT like once or twice a week or interact with an AI system, but most people who are like I would say 30 plus
Mm.
probably don't interact with AI very much at all. But in the next 5 years, that's completely going to change. I reckon in 5 years' time, everyone talks to the AI every day. It's a companion, not just for work, but for your lifestyle, for your fitness, for everything. I think it's all going to become
We
AI enhanced.
we use AI in a lot of different ways. Like we measure like, yeah, our health condition and um, but do you really want to rely on AI to, I don't know, to be, I I can't imagine myself talking to, like, I can helping me in something, yes,
Hmm.
but treating AI as something need connection to this, like, no, I can't, like, it's I really appreciate human connection.
Mm.
For me it's not possible, it's not that smart, it's never will be that smart because people have, yeah, like emotion, and it can mimic something, but yes, it's not near. And I think the younger generation, like younger as teenagers and
Hmm.
kids, that's the one who at risk because they don't have understanding of that. Probably they, so it's like with your, having a Tamagotchi before, and it was like much fun. So
Yes.
AI is accelerated everything, kind of. Yeah, don't know.
The Tamagotchi on steroids, I guess.
Yeah.
It's, it is crazy to think about because the AI is essentially trained on human behavior. And as you said, it can't necessarily elicit emotions very well. And you can tell, as you said, they're not necessarily too smart. But this is kind of the first iteration. The set, like, what are we on ChatGPT 4.0, and they release 5.0 at the end of the year, supposedly, right? So we're only on like kind of the fifth iteration of this.
Mm.
We're 2 years into ChatGPT being released. So what does it look like in 2030? Has it become so much better at mimicking that human kind of experience, right? Because that's the thing. It doesn't have experience. It only has knowledge,
Mm.
right? It doesn't have the wisdom to be able to communicate it. And a lot of the time you can read an AI generated response and know straight away.
Yeah.
But do you think it's coming? Do you think it's coming soon? That soon you'll be able to see a bit of text and know, oh, I don't know if someone wrote this or if it was AI.
I think you can see it. Right, I can see straight away. Like
Mm.
I use AI as a tool every time to, like, we've been pushed to, like, to use AI as much as we can because otherwise, like, you don't have time to do any other stuff. So
Hmm.
if you don't use AI for simplifying like the business as usual task, um, and I can see, but it's all about the
Yes.
prompting. So how to, like, you still give bullet points to AI. What do you need to focus on? Every time AI runs summaries of team meetings, etc., human needs to check it because in majority cases, I'm not satisfied with the summary of the meeting that Copilot done.
Mm.
It's not good enough. It's not right information. So I'm still revalidating everything before sending it to the customer partner. So it's not there yet.
I understand. No, it it really is robotic at times, and it's disappointing. Like, because they've talked about Copilot being this great thing, and that it's using OpenAI software and all these things,
Yep.
but in reality, it's quite robotic. And
I think they divorcing now OpenAI and Microsoft. So there is watch the space, something happening. Microsoft and OpenAI divorced
wow,
officially.
Sam Altman and Bill Gates had a falling out or something.
Yeah, I think Microsoft said that they will be keep developing Copilot just with their own technology. That's
Mm,
why probably all of this it was related to this Microsoft. Are we building more data centers or not? So
okay.
that's kind of it's all linked together. But yeah, apparently Copilot went Microsoft their own way.
Mm,
OpenAI, Apple adopting OpenAI
yes.
on all. So Apple was in thinking process for a very long time. What are we developing our own solution?
Yes.
But yeah, decide to um
Ink the
adopt.
deal with
Yeah,
OpenAI and have ChatGPT on the phone, which, they could have created their own LLM, I guess, right? Microsoft definitely has the capabilities to do that as well. And that's what we've seen from Google, Amazon, etc., right? But, it. The way I'm thinking about AI right now, especially when it comes to companies developing their own LLMs, right, and this kind of arms race for AI, is that sort of being used as kind of like a tool for division against, like, because we always talk about the AI arms race kind of being China versus the US. Is the AI arms race real? Does it, like, is this technology going to evolve sort of together? And does who invents it first really matter, or is there lives at stake?
I don't think it's like really mattered. Like what's happened with like it was DeepSeek,
Yeah, exactly.
and I don't where we now like it just I don't think it's matter who created something. It's it just go in the general use of all how much money you can make from this. Like
Mm.
what's I don't know. What's your thoughts on
Well,
this?
I think I completely agree. I think the DeepSeek thing was really blown out of proportion, and these like chatbot tools being like sort of grouped into something like an arms race. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to describe it. I don't think it's as emergency red light as the media kind of paints it to be,
Yep.
right? And they pitch it as this kind of arms race, Cold War between China and the US, and they put AI in there. But it's kind of like, is that really what we're focused on right now? Are we really focused on the AI arms race? Are we really focused on OpenAI's new ChatGPT 5, and if that's going to be better than DeepSeek's version 2 or whatever it is, right? I think there's a lot more at stake when it comes to the relationship between China and the US, not just to do with trade, but to do with Taiwan, to do with international relations, to do with the rise of BRICS countries.
Yep.
Because this is not the first time in history, because obviously we talked about the Soviet Union and the Cold War between the USSR, which was a giant group of countries, right? And then also now, like, we've got BRICS, which is what's BRICS? It's Brazil, Russia, Iran, China, and South Africa, right? But they've recently added Abu Dhabi and Ethiopia and a few other African countries too, right? And now we're starting to see a contradiction to the UN, right? Like, for a long time, it was Russia, China, and then the West,
Mm.
the UN, right? But now it's the UN and BRICS nations, right? Do you think this is dangerous? Kind of like these two factions forming and one, becoming stronger in the BRICS nations?
Um, it's kind of for me, like not for me. Like I think it is certainly has some um thoughts. Like we should be thinking that it's not just China by itself anymore, but they and like China plays by itself. There is also interesting like where India sits.
Mm,
India they kind of they saying we're part of this BRICS,
yes.
but the reality also saying like we kind of more independent, and that's we all need to be like really the biggest population now.
Hmm.
In terms of the technology, they so many development happened there. So we everyone needs to be quite concerned about all this, and Middle East as well, and all other countries. I think, yeah, it's becoming very the power shift in terms of I don't think US has so much power anymore.
No, I don't think so either. And I think they're kind of like grasping to hold on to it, which
Yeah,
is really scary, right? And I think we're also seeing, because the US is starting to lose power, I think that you're seeing countries like Israel start to like try and capitalize on that, right? To like reap the rewards of a dying empire in the US, right? And they've done a lot in the last 2 years, not just in on the Gaza front, obviously, but their attacks on Iran, sorry, and on Libya too. So it's kind of sorry, Lebanon. But yeah, very very scary, very scary times. That power shift, right? Even if people think that the US shouldn't have as much power as they do, right? That power shift breeds tension in itself, right? Which is
yeah.
not good for the average person. So no, Mila, it's been awesome to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you,
It's been
Ethan.
awesome. Thank you again for these gifts, these posters. We're gonna hang them up, I reckon. Like we got to get them around the room. And yeah, it was fantastic to have you. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
No worries. See you, everyone.